towering cliffs overlooking small villages that cling impossibly to the shoreline as waterfalls seem to literally drop from the clouds. With its fascinating history and unparalleled natural beauty, today's episode of Planet Cruise Weekly is all about the spectacular fjords of Norway. Hello and welcome to Planet Cruise Weekly, where today we're discussing a part of the world almost made just for cruising, the Norwegian Fjords. Now, I've been lucky enough to cruise here over 40 times and counting, and every time I get that wonderful childlike sense of awe and excitement as the ship's dwarfed by the sheer magnitude of Norway's giant's teeth. Now, before we get into it, make sure you do hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so that you can get more regular updates of some of the episodes and information and video that we share here, sometimes almost on a daily basis with Planet Cruise. It's very simple, ding, dong, done. Also, you need to watch all the way through to the end as we have some special tips for you about cruising to the fjords. Norway's majestic natural drama leaves most visitors in awe. Vast, craggy cliff faces loom over fjords and modest fishing villages. The rugged country inland is dotted only by the occasional farm and 13th century church. And much of Norway lies inside the Arctic Circle, so it's the place to come and experience the midnight sun, polar nights, and of course that magnificent aurora borealis. Unlike in Alaska, you're less likely to see glaciers and interesting wildlife, and more likely to turn your gaze to the dramatic waterfalls tumbling down verdant cliffs and mountainsides. Outdoors enthusiasts can get closer with kayaking or hiking trips. Smaller villages along the fjords function more as transit hubs for excursions out to scenic vistas, while Norway's cities give you the opportunity to explore excellent museums on the country's maritime history and local culture, as well as a chance, of course, to try some of those excellent woolen products. Everyone loves a Norwegian woolly jumper. Adventurous types might like to follow the coastline all the way north into the Arctic to spy on polar bears and abandoned mines, and of course to seek out that midnight sun. Now, with a wide variety of itinerary lengths and ship types, from mainstream to luxury through to expedition, cruise travellers have lots of choices to tailor their Norway cruises specifically to their interests. And with hotel and food prices in Norway being sky high, a cruise can often be the most affordable way to see this incredible northern land. Now, June through to August is the peak of the Norway cruise season, but most companies start their voyages in May and run into September. Now, a few lines offer earlier spring or later autumn cruises, but the Norwegian specialist Hurtigruten sails year round, and that's pretty much because they're essentially a service for the local Norwegians to get from A to B. Now, temperatures may be a bit more brisk at off-peak times, but you will avoid the summer crowds. And in general, summer temperatures are warm but not oppressive, with average daytime temperatures in the upper 50s and 60s in ports like Oslo and the beautiful Bergen. Now, though the highs can reach into the 80s, and it is possible to get sunburnt, trust me, I've been there, weather can change frequently, bringing plenty of rainy or drizzly days. And you'll also experience long summer days in this northerly destination, but you'll have to cross the Arctic Circle on a longer trip to experience the true midnight sun, where the sun never sets. I mean, I can literally remember being outside 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and it being bright daytime. Now, when it comes to the cruise lines that cruise in the Norwegian fjords, Hurtigruten is literally the king of the area, with at least one ship departing daily on its coastal route. Now, most major cruise lines and many expedition lines also visit Norway. The notable exceptions are Carnival, Disney, and currently Norwegian Cruise Lines, though of course this does change and may well have changed by the time you watch this. Now, some major cruise lines offer only a few departures, while others such as Celebrity Cruises, Costa, Fred Olsen, Holland America, MSC Cruises and P&O Cruises offer multiple sailing dates and plenty of different variable itinerary options. Norway's cruises depart from a variety of home ports, including Bergen and Oslo, which of course are in Norway. Other popular departure cities are Copenhagen, Amsterdam, Hamburg, and of course, what we'll probably be more familiar with if from the UK, a variety of ports such as Southampton, Harwich, Dover and others, including Newcastle as well. Now, true Arctic cruises may embark in Svalbard, basically the port of Spitsbergen. There doesn't seem to be much of a standard Norway cruise. Many, you know, are a mix of southern and northern ports as well as other northern Europe destinations. But I will attempt to give you a few basic breakdowns of what to expect. But again, it's always open for a little bit of change. Firstly, the most popular one is just a typical standard Norwegian Fjords cruise. Though, as I say, a typical standard Norwegian Fjords cruise doesn't exist, but they generally are in about 7 to 14 days in length. Bergen is the big city that features on most itineraries, one of the gateway ports, if you like, into the fjords. Some of these may also include Oslo. Cruises are rounded out with smaller scenic ports like Stavanger, Geiranger, Ålesund and Flåm. And a surprising number go as far north as Spitsbergen, or Svalbard as we saw before, into the Arctic on week-long or beyond sailings. Now, of course, you can visit the Norwegian fjords on coastal voyages. Hurtigruten ships offer a year-round service up and down Norway's coastline. Hurtigruten literally means the fast route. It's their, if you like, ferry service. And these are round-trip from Bergen, going as far north as Kirkenes, which is almost to Russia, and stopping at a myriad of ports, both large and small. Now, whilst foreigners may treat these journeys like regular cruises, and I count you and most of us that are watching as foreigners, unless you're Norwegian, staying on board for 5, 6 or the full 11 nights. There are day trippers as well who use the vessels almost as a ferry service between ports, and crew members unload freight and mail at most stops. So it is an essential part of Norwegian life, which makes it so fascinating to visit Norway with Hurtigruten. Next is Arctic Norway. Now, you don't need an expedition ship to visit Norway's Arctic destinations, which include Tromsø, Honningsvåg and the North Cape, Svalbard or Spitsbergen, and of course the Lofoten Islands. Many mainstream and luxury lines offer itineraries to these northern ports. The cruises are typically 2 to 3 weeks and may also hit some southern Norway ports as well. And the final one is itineraries that don't just visit Norway. They're typically longer itineraries and they come from a variety of different lines, but they combine Norwegian stops with maybe Baltic or other northern European destinations. Some of them even going as far as Iceland. In fact, it's a really nice itinerary that several lines do, which is worth looking at, which does, in a sense, the Arctic part of Norway and then goes up to Iceland. So a really nice combination. So what I want to do now is give you a few highlights of some of the main ports that you'd see on a typical Norwegian Fjords cruise. First place to mention is Bergen. I said before, it's almost like that gateway city for Norwegian Fjords trips. And your first glimpse of this quaint town will be the old Hanseatic wharf lined with narrow peaked roof buildings in various colours. Now, funicular will take you from the city centre up to the top of Mount Fløyen. It gives you great views of the city below and the surrounding mountains and fjords. And if you're feeling energetic, you can walk back down, burn off a few calories, increase your step count, enjoy the clear air and a really beautiful natural walk down. Head down to the bustle of the fish market. It's got an incredible array of sea life and in fact one of the largest selections of fresh seafood in the whole of Norway. Now, Bergen's famous for being the birthplace of the great Norwegian composer Edvard Grieg. You can visit his home, which is beautifully set on Lake Nordas. It's also a city that's made for walking, and I recommend you walk down to the old harbour where you'll find the famous Briggen quayside that I talked about before, and those impressive merchant houses. It's really atmospheric. And there you can take your pick from waterfront cafes and tuck into a tasty fish lunch. Next up, the capital, Oslo, an amazing city. Forest-clad slopes plummet down to this island-studded fjord. And Oslo is Scandinavia's oldest capital city. It's the commercial centre of Norway. It's also been a major trading port for over a millennium. And its harbour is crowded with shipping that ranges from cruise ships, which you'll probably be on, through to literally workaday shrimp boats. Now the hills and lakes of its outlying countryside are a paradise for lovers of winter sports. It's a great sailing there as well. You have a wonderful sail in and sail out, so make sure you're on deck for that. And the city itself boasts a sophisticated yet cosy charm with a blend of 19th and 20th century buildings, many decorated with wood carvings and bright frescoes. And there's wide avenues that are dotted with public squares and parks. Quite often I would just get off and I would sit in one of the local parks and just kind of soak up some of that local Norwegian atmosphere and culture. Now you've got a dock in the shadow of Akershus Castle, which is medieval in its origins, dates back to 1299 and gives you incredible views back down the Oslo Fjord from which you've just sailed into. Other highlights include the National Gallery, which has Edvard Munch's The Screen painting, the Viking ship museums and some incredibly preserved ancient vessels, and of course their Nobel Peace Prize Museum, which is probably one of the most engaging and exciting museums you'll ever experience. Flom, many people's favourite. The little place between steep mountains is cradled in a deep tributary of the Sognefjord, which is the world's longest and deepest fjord, and it's surrounded by towering cliff faces and little rustic wooden lodges of Flom's town centre. They almost look like miniature models actually when you're sailing in, and it adds to the charm, especially when you're walking around. Now you can ride on the world's steepest railway along a series of sharp bends and cliff edge tunnels. You can adventure into the white caves of Gudvangen and explore the underground labyrinth with light shows and a soundtrack of classical music, or sip your way through a frothy cappuccino at the coffee shop of the Stelheim Museum. Now I've included Tromsø in this particular episode. Technically it is Arctic Norway, but Tromsø is one of those places which sometimes gets tagged on. It's brilliant. And it's the biggest city above the Arctic Circle. It's been the starting point for countless polar expeditions. Norwegians call it the Paris of the North. It's known for its iceberg-shaped Arctic cathedral, which glistens in the haunting glow of this ever-present midnight sun. Now, when you're here, you can call in at the Tromsø Museum, which is home to one of the world's largest expeditions of traditional Sami culture, who are the local people indigenous to Norway. Or you can enjoy a meal 1,300 feet above sea level by taking the cable car up to Mount Storsteinen and drink in the sensational panoramic views while you tuck into some traditional Norwegian cuisine. For me though, if you are in Tromsø, the unmissable attraction is meeting the Sorensen family. Mum Tor, Dad Tove and their 3 children live at the Wilderness Centre on Whale Island, along with 300 huskies. So it really is a fantastic activity or tour to do. Next up, Geiranger in Norway, and again it's always between Geiranger and Flom as to which is people's favourite destination normally in Norway. There's a tiny village which you walk around in about 5 minutes, and it's right at the end of the fjord. But the main thing about Geiranger is the sailing, which is absolutely stunning. It really is. You head up, as you're heading up, it's dwarfed, this village, by these huge mountains that go back around you on either side. And they're snow-capped, and it's just an incredible arrival. And to think that people live in this place, it feels like, in a sense, the end of the earth. Now, just getting there or leaving, as I say, is such an incredible thing, because you're going to sail past the Seven Sisters waterfall, which spill hundreds of thousands of gallons of water into the fjord from an incredible height of 5,000 foot. And directly opposite the Seven Sisters is the Suta waterfall, which hasn't had any luck in seducing any of the sisters to date. Bear in mind, depending on what time of the year you go, the Seven Sisters sometimes are 5 sisters or 4 sisters. It just depends on how much snowfall is melting and how much water is rushing down the mountain. Other highlights when you're in Geiranger include trekking up Mount Desniba. The mountain summit is nearly 5,000 foot above sea level. Great views of Geiranger Fjord. There's Fjords, and my pronunciation is probably terrible there, so forgive me, which lies to the south of the town of Geiranger. It's a gigantic overhanging rock which opens onto the Geiranger Fjord. It's one of the most photographic sites in Norway. You no doubt have seen this photo that you're seeing now. And finally, for road tour lovers, the road between Geiranger and Idsal is known as the Eagle Road, and particularly the last turn is a hairpin bend. It's known as the Eagle's Bend, and it offers incredible views over the Geiranger Fjord. The only other thing to do here is make sure you have some waffles and jam. Stavanger is next. It's a sophisticated little city that thrives in a patchwork of heather-covered hills and breathtaking fjords. And there's a contrast between modern architecture and trendy, stylish cafes with ancient cobblestone walkways and rows of 18th century whitewashed wooden houses. You can stroll through the old quarter, packed with oldie-worldy wooden houses, and literally see artists hard at work in their studios. Now, as you wander around the town, keep your eyes open for the 23 identical cast iron figures by the sculptor Anthony Gormley that are scattered about. They're about 6 feet tall, hard to miss, and they face 10 degrees west, and they face towards the same figures that go back from Crosby Beach in Liverpool. So if you've been to Crosby Beach in Liverpool and you've seen those Iron Men, then you'll know the other Iron Men that are here. You'll also enjoy other quirky museums, miles of pristine beaches, and the chance to visit iconic Norwegian landmarks such as the Kajag Boulder, the Troll's Tongue, and the Pulpit Rock. The other things to definitely do here if you are a museum fan, Norwegian Canning Museum and the Petroleum Museum. Might sound boring on the face of it, but the Norwegians have a great way of making even the most mundane things really interesting. So the final port highlight, there are more ports, of course, in Norway, lots more that we could have featured, but we've picked our favourites here, so do get in touch actually if you think we've missed out a port in our port highlights that we should have actually talked about, and tell us why we should have included it. Get involved in the comments below. So Ålesund, now in 1904 it was ravaged by fire, but an incredible little city almost rose like a phoenix from the ashes, if we forgive the image, as a result. And it's really, really impressive. It was rebuilt in the Art Nouveau style, and it's a medley of turrets and spires and ornamental twists that gives the town almost a magical fairy tale feel. What makes it even more unusual though is it's set across several islands sprinkled in the ocean, with the spectacular Sunnmøre Alps as a backdrop. You can explore one of the biggest aquariums in Europe with a trip to the Atlantic Sea Park, or the Atlantisparken, as I think they call it in Norway, which has open tanks that are linked to the ocean beside which it sits. My dad and I had a great afternoon visiting that when we went out a few years ago. Or you can visit the lighthouse as well, which is just beyond there, which is incredible. But my main pick is to go out on the famous Trollstigen Road, which takes you over stone bridges, around hairpin bends, all the way to the Troll Wall, which is Europe's highest vertical drop. It's a magical road trip which will leave you breathless, amazed, and wanting more. So finally, my cruise tips for Norway. Do try the local foods. You don't have to have big meals out to sample Norway's unique foods. Fish markets in many ports sell more than just fish, and you can get samples of elk, reindeer and whale from the vendors if that's your thing. Or find a cafe serving Norwegian waffles and jam made from local berries. Make sure you're flexible with your activities ashore. Norway is a terrific place for outdoor activities like kayaking, biking and hiking, but the weather can be varied and often wet, so it's always good to have a backup plan in case of the inclement weather, and make sure you take advantage when the sun is out. And if it is raining, don't be afraid to push back an activity. Often a rainy day will turn sunny later on, or vice versa. It does change within a day very, very often. Do take the kids, if you've got them of course. Norway's family friendly. There's lots of outdoor play structures and kiddies areas in museums and shopping venues. There's aquariums that we've already mentioned, train rides that we've mentioned, interesting parks. All of this adds to the appeal for children. And Norwegians are tremendously welcoming of families. So for more on family cruising, you can visit our family cruises page. Final tip is to bring an alarm clock, or be willing to have your mobile phone or maybe your smartwatch as a way of setting an alarm clock for you. And that's because many cruise ships enter the beautiful Fjord very early in the morning, and it is worth setting an alarm and getting up early to watch the ship sail in. Yes, of course, you will retrace your steps at the end of the day, often slowing down by the famous falls, the Seven Sisters, but the light will be better and more photo friendly in the morning. There'll be fewer people out there to block your view. Plus, given Norway's notoriously finicky weather that we were just talking about before, there's no guarantee that the rain won't set in before the ship departs, but normally very early on in the morning, you're guaranteed clear skies. So hopefully that's given you a bit more of an idea about cruising the Norwegian fjords. Hope you enjoyed it. If you disagree with anything I've said, or if you think we missed out anything, please do get involved. Comment in the section below and tell us your thoughts. We love to hear what you think. Also, don't forget to share this video, send it out to friends that may be thinking of cruising Norway. It's a really great entry cruise for many, many people, because there are so many itineraries that you can do from the UK heading out to the fjords. Also, don't forget to subscribe, hit the little bell sign next door as well, so you get reminders when our next video footage is being released on our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Keith Maynard. Hope to see you again soon for another Planet Cruise Weekly. Bye-bye. Hi everyone, thanks very much for watching the video. Please don't forget to comment and subscribe below, and remember to click the bell to get those notifications turned on. And if you're looking for more fantastic travel content like this, then click on the videos to the right. It will be really informative. Or you can click on the Planet logo to the left and go to our website for some really fantastic deals. Thanks for watching.